I'm Marcos Chavez, age 35. Today's date is March 3rd, 2014, and we're at the library.
I'm Ernest Tsosie the third, age 46. Today is March 3rd, 2014, at Gallup, New Mexico Library.
So, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I'm originally from the Navajo Reservation. I was born in Fort Defiance, Arizona, and I grew up throughout the Navajo Nation. As a child, I was born there in Fort Defiance, and my mom was an educator. She was a home economics instructor, and so we moved around, and she would teach. She taught in many farms in Arizona in my early years, and also when Dene College opened up. It was called Navajo Community College, and she was a home economics instructor at the college there. So I lived in Saley for the majority of my childhood in Arizona, and then back to Fort Defiance, Winter Rock, Arizona, and in my high school years, and ended up graduating from Gallup, New Mexico, back in 1985.
Wow. So, you graduated from Gallup High, I believe you said.
That's right.
What did you do after graduated from Gallup High?
I was one of those students that was kind of undecided as far as what to do. I knew I was going to college. My mom was kind of being an educator, always kind of encouraged us to go to college once we finished high school. But I didn't know what I want to do, so I was one of those that had like 10 majors, kept trying out different things, until I found something that I was really interested in. But yeah, I kind of just went into college and kind of general. I even went to like trade school and I got a certificate in carpentry, believe it or not. No, right out of high school, and then ended up going to college for a number of years after that.
Where'd you go, to the branch here or to Navajo Community?
I went, I went to the branch for a couple of courses and right out of high school, but I ended up going to Albuquerque, New Mexico. There was a trade school called TVI, Technical Vocational Institute.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's a different name now.
Yeah, it's Central New Mexico.
Yeah, so I went and studied this, carpentry, learned carpentry.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you study carpentry, but and I got a certificate there because I thought I wanted to be. My dad was in the construction business, so I kind of was following that path there. But I did like 2 summers of framing, building houses, and I was like, no way, I don't think I can handle this for the next 20 years.
Right.
It's really very hard work and pretty arduous, even though I liked doing the work. So I thought I better get to college and try for something else. And I had a number of interests, interior design and computers was just coming out back then, so I thought maybe computer or something in that field. But I ended up doing studying anthropology for about 2 or 3 years before I got bit by the acting bug, and that's when my life changed there.
How did you get bit by the acting bug?
Well, growing up on the res, me and I had an older cousin of mine. We would talk about the movies that we like, and back then I think the big movie was a movie called Powwow Highway, and it had native actors in there. One of them was Gary Farmer, who I thought was I kind of related to him because he seemed like someone along my same personality, and I became a big fan of his. And then we would just kind of fantasize about being in the movies, getting into the movies. And one time in Winter Rock, they're casting for the movie of Geronimo, the big motion picture there. And my cousin and I went out and auditioned for it, and I kind of thought at that time too. I didn't think it was really realistic for a Native American to be in the movies. It was kind of native filming and actors was just barely coming on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like, and so I kind of got some inspiration and hope from those types of movies back in I think it was like the 90s or so. And then it wasn't until a few years later where I really started thinking about it, like seriously trying to be an actor. Because the more I watched movies and kind of fell in love with the movie process and just seeing these stories come alive on screen, kind of resonated with me. So I thought I'd give it a shot. But the thing is, my first attempt at acting, I was a failure. This is where I found out I had stage fright.
Oh no.
Yeah. And in retrospect, I was a very introverted child. I was very lack of confidence, and that had a lot to do with growing up in a dysfunctional family. My father was an alcoholic my whole childhood, and so I kind of grew up in a very sheltered and volatile,
Mm-hmm.
environment. And I didn't know this until later when I got older that I was introverted and I was shy and kind of like had social anxieties, you know.
Oh yeah.
So when I got into acting class, and you know, the whole my exam was to do a monologue, which is get up in front of the class and act, and I couldn't do it. And that's the moment I ended up walking out of that class. I never finished it. I dropped it that day, and
Mm.
it bothered me though for the next 3 years. So I kind of did some soul searching, and um, I didn't want it to. I didn't want to give up, but I didn't want it to for this thing to take me down. So I thought of acting, and I had to kind of change my thinking, and I started looking at it as a job, just like when I went to carpentry school and I had to learn it, and then I got a job. So acting the same way, I had to go learn these techniques, and part of the job was to get in front of people, and whether it's a camera or a live audience, and perform.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I changed my thinking like that, I kind of got it gave me the I guess the skills or the courage to overcome that stage fright because I had to look at it differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did, and long story short, I ended up succeeding, you know, and I got into a few plays in college when I was studying acting. I went to school in Tucson, Arizona, Pima College, and studied acting
Oh,
there.
okay.
And that's kind of when I finally found my place and the courage to continue seeking a career in the performing arts.
So, what was your first successful acting that didn't involve a play?
Um, what I had to do, what I learned through other actors and whatnot, is first you had to get an agent. That's kind of an important thing. So I did that, and my plans bounced around between 2 or 3 agents before I kind of found one that I trusted and that was good to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm with an agency called Robert Black, RBA, or Robert Black Agency. But they're one of the maybe top 2 in Arizona. Um, and so I started auditioning for them, going out on calls. I was living in Mesa. I went out for, back in the, I think it was the 90s, PBS did a series of Tony Hillerman
Mm-hmm.
movies, and they made like about 3 or 4 of them. And I auditioned for Thief of Time, and I got uh, cast in that. So that's kind of my first professional mainstream job was through the PBS Tony Hillerman series.
Hmm. Um, how does one get an agent? Like, if somebody was saying, "Hey, I want to be an actor, but I don't know anything about getting started," what would someone do?
Well, I've actually had that question come to me from younger performers now, and I usually tell them the best thing to do is, if you can, start getting some acting experience, whether it's like community theater or and just going on auditions, whether it's open call, because it's kind of a catch-22 with the agent. Like they'll they'll want people with experience,
Mm-hmm.
but the only way you get experience is to get the job. So it's kind of a weird
Yeah.
situation. But I just tell them if you can, you know, get the training, you know, get some local acting under your belt first, and kind of build a resume. That way you
Mm-hmm.
can present it to an agent, and most agents now, they want what they call a reel, which is kind of some sample of your work on TV or whatever you have on video format,
Mm-hmm.
and from that they'll base their judgment. And that's what I did with I had to do that with a new agent. My current agent is out of Albuquerque, the O agency, and I went to her. My agent, her name is Lynette, but she wanted to see a reel, you know. So a good thing by then I had a few small videos that I've done, short films and whatnot, that I was able to present her, and based on that, she took me on as a client. So that's kind of how it works.
I see. And so, what'd you do next after?
Um, well, but in the meantime, I was doing I was watching I love stand up comedy, so I would watch a lot of it. And then it came an opportunity to actually try myself to get up on stage and do stand up comedy. This is what acting was. Acting for me as a native is the jobs are few and far between. So in the meantime, you know, kind of got to figure out other things to do. So I wanted to try comedy, and back in 2001, I was back home living in Winter Rock, and I was reading the Navajo Times, and there was a little side blurb, you know, about native comedians,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what caught my eye was the word, you know, native comedy, and it was a competition for amateur comics to come out, and it was an event and sponsored by the city of Farmington, New Mexico, and they had professional comics coming in doing a show that night, but on the side, little sideshow was a competition of local native or whoever wanted to try out,
Hmm.
But they're looking for native comedy, and I said, wow, that's cool. I said, and it was I felt safe trying out for that because it was in front of native crowd, and there was other native comics trying to do their thing. But I don't think I had the courage then to try to like go into Phoenix or Albuquerque and try to get a open night mic or something like that,
Right.
mainstream. So the fact that it was a native oriented event, I signed up for it, and just to try, it was a self challenge again, kind of still dealing with stage fright and that feeling of being insecure on stage. So it was more of a personal challenge to get up there and see if I can do it. And this is a testament to how scary stand up comedy is. Apparently there was like 25 natives that signed up for the show. The night of, only four of us actually showed up. So yeah,
Wow.
and one of them was James Jones, who is my business partner now today, and we do James and Ernie comedy, and we've been doing that for 13 years full time. But I met him that night at this competition, and him and I, it came down to him and I as the two top winners for the night, and they had a audience applause, to
Hmm.
decide who won. They had judges too, but they gave it to the audience to see what happens, and it was so close that we couldn't tell who won.
Wow.
And in the end, they gave it to James, the judges.
Oh.
I always tease him like, yeah, he had home court advantage because he's from Farmington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I had a good set that night. It gave me the courage to think of actually trying more. So for the next year, I was pursuing comedy, just local on the reservation comedy at events, wellness events, or whatever community events, and kind of build up my experience doing that for a year. And then a year later, James, I would run into James too. He was in the same position, first time on stage as a comic,
Hmm.
and he won the event, so he had courage to and confidence to continue on seeking more comedy work after that. So him and I were doing comedy for a year as solo comedians and just bouncing around. We'd run into each other here and there, and we got together as James Learning Comedy by what we call Indian time as a mistake, not mistake, but just the event we're both at performing solo comedy. They were running behind schedule. That's Indian time, just being behind schedule. And the coordinator asked us, "Hey, can you guys go on together? We're behind schedule. Can you guys just get on stage together and do your thing?" And we're like, "I don't think so." He's like, I have my comedy, he has his." And she was kind of like, "Please, come on, So reluctantly, we said, "Okay, we'll do it. We'll figure it out." So we went up on stage together, two comedians, and then we just started firing off our comedy back and forth,
Hmm.
and the crowd just started going for it, man. They're just, But we had 20 minutes on stage, and by the end of that 20 minutes, huge ovation, laughter through the whole thing, and we're like, wow, we knew we were onto something.
Hmm.
It was that noticeable. So that night we're up like till 2 in the morning thinking about it, talking about it, and we decided to team up as a comedy duo. And plus there was no other Navajo comedy duo. We were the first, so that's our claim to fame. But that's how that comedy got started.
Where was it at?
This was in Tuba City, Arizona.
Tuba City.
The show is called Stars in the Desert, where they have a benefit event for they're trying to build a local um, youth center,
Hmm.
And to this day, I think they're still trying to build it.
Oh, wow. So where was your first time together, or you guys officially were together?
I can't remember exactly when, but by then I had like some jobs lined up as a solo performer, and same with James. So what we did is just called our contacts. Hey, I'm bringing a friend. We're gonna perform together. We're trying this duo thing, and then he did the same thing.
Hmm.
So we kind of I think at first one was probably in like in the Pueblos used to bring us in. Acoma. I think was one of our very first jobs together. The Acoma tribe
Hmm.
hired us for a conference or something like that. Then from there, it's all we've just been doing that for that last 13 years. So it's been pretty good.
What would you say was probably the most exciting place you've gotten to perform?
I believe one of the most memorable moments was when we were asked to perform at the Museum of American Indian in Washington D.C.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was cool. We went out there and we did a performance. And while we are there, we booked a sideshow at the Kennedy Center. Of course, which is world-renowned venue.
Hmm.
It wasn't on their main stage, but it was one of their smaller stages, and that was pretty cool. It was also our first show where it was predominantly a non-native crowd, like tourists and whatnot, and it was a full house. And we went and we did our thing, and it was awesome. And the crowd loved it, and I'll always remember that show.
So do you guys do your own bookings for your shows, or do you have an agent that does that?
We do our own bookings mainly, but we have some booking agents that work on our behalf. Occasionally, they'll book us a show. One of them is actually Knife Wing Productions here in Gallup,
Hmm.
who's one of our booking agents, and then we have a couple here and there. But yeah, for the most part, we take care of our own business.
That's great. So, uh, do you have any horror stories from doing some of the comedy shows?
Sure do, man. Every comic has that one story where they totally bombed,
Oh no.
and for us, it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where maybe our second year into the duo, and we're still kind of learning our ways and whatnot. And it was I call it a misbooking, where we had a booking agent book us for an event where the client was a cleaning company out of the Midwest, maybe like Iowa or somewhere.
Hmm.
And we're talking older generation, maybe 45 and over, the
Mm.
whole crowd. Um, all white people, farmers, ranchers, and we're a Native American comedy duo, contemporary.
Uh huh.
And I think what they were looking for was like some, powwow dancers and the Southwest experience. And we get up there and we're just two silly Indians, dressed in t-shirts, and and from moment one, man, we crashed and burned.
Oh no.
It was painful, and no laughs whatsoever.
Wow.
And we're contracted for 1 hour, and we stayed on stage for that entire hour. And slowly, in the first 10 minutes, people start walking out on us.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was so bad that we got a couple of mercy laughs from maybe some of the younger people in the crowd, maybe some some kid that wanted their parents to the conference. Oh man, but it was so bad that the president of the company after the show came up and he demanded half of his money back.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, "This is not what we wanted, or what we." And our booking agent was standing right there. She just kind of like, tilted her head to the sky and looked around like she wasn't even there. So we agreed to give him a refund of 50%, and that was we almost James, poor guy, he almost quit that night.
Oh
It was so
man.
bad. But me, I've been performing now for a number of years, so I wasn't too worried about it. It
Uh-huh.
was just a misbooking.
Just a
But yeah,
misfire.
but it hurts, man, when I think about it.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Just the blank stares.
Yep.
Was it a big place?
It was big room. There's about, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred people.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, we cleared out the room pretty quick.
Have you had any strange moments where, like, maybe fans or
um,
weird people?
not really. We're pretty laid back, so we don't get any of the freaks.
That's good.
Most of the people is there to enjoy. And the thing is, our comedy is clean. It's family oriented, so
Hmm.
our demographics are just the kids and family, and
It's a little
so
normal people.
yeah, we haven't had no we haven't had any freaky stuff happen to us.
That's good. So, most recently, I know you were a part of a big movie that everyone around here is really excited about, Drunktown's Finest.
Yes.
What can you tell me about how you got involved with it and what your part in that movie was?
Well, James and I, we played two characters were to work together in the movie. James was Leroy, and I played character by the name of Copenhagen,
Hmm.
and they're kind of like just city workers or tribal workers. They what they do is in the movie their job is they're called the roadkill cleanup crew, and
Mm.
their job is to basically go around the res and pick up dead carcasses off the road and stuff like that, which is actually a pretty common thing on the reservation for some reason. A lot of animals get run over or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
So I can see that service needed on the reservation, but in the movie that's what we did. Sydney Freeland, writer director from here from Gallup. She came to us like maybe 3 years ago. The movie was just shot this past year, 2014, 2013, summer of. And 3 years prior to that, approximately, she asked if we wanted to audition for this movie.
Hmm.
So we did. We did a reading, and James and I auditioned for these two characters. And then we hear nothing for two, like I said, 3 years probably. And after you usually audition, you'll hear whether or not you're cast or not.
Hmm.
In this case, we didn't get nothing, no callback, and the production seemed to kind of die out. So we said, well, I guess that's not gonna happen, and we just kind of went on with our careers. And then 3 years later, after we auditioned the first time, I get a call from Sydney. She goes, "Hey, you guys still interested?" And I'm like, "Holy cow, yeah,
Oh
heck yeah,
wow.
man, we're still interested, you know." And I she just wanted to get our confirmation. Like we didn't have to audition again, so we pretty much how we had the roles, you know, at that point.
Mhm.
And so she's okay, cool. And eventually, you know, a date came for shooting, and that's when you know it's confirmed, is when you're on location or you're on set, you know,
Mhm.
actually shooting the thing. And that's what happened with this movie. And our first day was in Santa Fe in the studio. We did a scene what they call a poor man's process of shooting inside a vehicle, but you're just sitting in the soundstage, and you know they have fake lights, and those are
Oh.
nighttime shots, so
Uh-huh.
they have somebody rocking the truck like you're driving it. You know, you gotta the big acting was making sure you looks like you're steering your actual vehicle.
Uh-huh.
So that was our first scene, and then the rest we shot on location in around Gallup, New Mexico, and you know some actual locations. And yeah, so that was our experience with that.
Do you have it? See any similarities between the characters you played and who you guys are in real life?
Yeah, it was actually because we were two characters that work together, and they're kind of like the comedy relief, I guess, of the movie. They're kind of just silly, traditional, you know, superstition,
Uh-huh.
and every now and then, you know, we do a take, and Sydney would say, okay, let's try it again. This time, let's try for more James and Ernie. You know what I mean? She would
Uh-huh.
direct us like that, you know. So like, okay. So yeah, it was pretty, you know, we felt pretty comfortable in the role because we James and I work together every day anyway. So
Mhm. Um, did you have a really good experience overall? Would you say with filming the movie?
yes, I did, like, because and as an actor, you always want some good dialogue, you know, some good lines to deliver, and for this character of Copenhagen, I had the opportunity of doing, you know, some serious drama stuff,
Mhm.
acting, and as well as the comedic stuff. So for me as an actor, it was I was satisfied with it, you know.
Mhm.
I walked away feeling good about the work I provided, and I felt good about the lines that Sydney, you know, gave me an opportunity to bring to life, you know, on the screen. So yeah, it was as an actor, it was a good experience.
How was it working with Sydney?
Awesome, man. Sydney, she's just a very easygoing director. You know, she makes you feel very comfortable in the scene on the set. You know, you hear horror stories of directors being angry or
Mhm.
you know just being disrespectful, but she's the opposite of that, and just a wonderful. And then just her vibe, you know, when you get to meet her, she lets off just a good vibe where you feel comfortable. And I think for an actor, that's the best way to get the best out of them, you know, is just to make them feel comfortable. And she definitely did that for probably everybody. There's some of the scenes I even watched with other actors. You know, she wasn't really stressed out about nothing. Never seen her get angry or
Mhm.
uptight. You know, she just did her thing, man. Totally professional.
Wow, that's great. You also mentioned to me that you're part of working on a community center or trying to.
Well, what we do as James Ernie Comedy, from day one, we wanted to do comedy with a message. So we do a lot of motivational speaking in the community,
Mhm.
wherever we go. And I'm a part of a group with my father and my brother called Walking the Healing Path. And my brother and my father are the ones that founded this, but they kind of brought me on. Um, and it's geared toward domestic violence awareness. So what we do is kind of go into communities, and we just did one this past week down in White River, Arizona, for the Apache tribe, and going in and just talking about our experience as you know, I mentioned earlier that I grew up in an alcoholic, dysfunctional family.
Mhm.
So my dad now, to his credit, he's been sober like 30 plus years,
Oh, that's great.
and yeah, so as a family, we go into communities and do motivational speaking and just talking about that family dynamics and what alcohol and drugs and that kind of um, abuse and issues will do to a family. You know,
Mhm.
being a family that went through it and survived alcoholism and drug addiction and all that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of that kind of work, um, motivational community wellness, you know, type of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's going to get, of course, that's always going to be needed in today's communities. Even like here in Gallup, of course, you know, even Junktown's Finest is was kind of spawned off of the issues that are in Gallup. You know,
Mhm.
back in the day, the TV show 2020, you know, giving Gallup that name, Junktown USA is what it was called. You know,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing that too when I was I a teenager, I was like, man, that's not cool,
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that too when I was a teenager.
I was kind of embarrassed.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's why Sydney too was so passionate about getting this movie out there and showing people what the real deal is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very important movie, I think, for America to see.
Mhm. Your motivational talks, you do those around this community, many communities.
We do them around this community, but we also have reservation wide and even outside to Native America, basically.
Mhm.
Mainly to the youth is our message. We work with a lot of schools, come in and do assembly, high school assemblies or middle school assemblies, and then sometimes we'll throw in a community event too, as well. So yeah, so it's kind of just our message to everyone, but we're pretty passionate about the youth out there and just making sure we try to have a healthy um, next generation.
Yeah. What would you say the main message is that you try to give to the youth?
I think the main message is, of course, to be drug free, to be sober. If you want to be successful,
Mhm.
I think one of the best ways is to do it with a clear mind and just to give them the encouragement um, that as Native Americans that we have just as much opportunity as any other American out there to have success, and to live an awesome, well life, and we don't have to always agree with the stereotypes, I mean, junk Indian or being poor, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think some of us get caught in that trap or that rut, and we think that's our lot in life when actually it's not, it's a deception. And we always talk about Native Americans that are, like either in pro baseball or pro sports, they're out there doing it, or even or just being a lawyer or a doctor. Whereas back in the day, it was unheard of to see like a native doctor, medical doctor,
Mhm.
or a Native American, professional golfer or baseball player. But that's been squashed,
Oh yeah.
and so we kind of remind them that it's out there. They're whatever they want to do, they can do it.
Mhm. What would you like to see happen in this community in the future?
Um, I would like to see. I mean, we're working with a group here called Care 66,
Mhm.
and they're dealing with a lot of the homeless people that are in this community of Gallup. I would like to see more of those facilities, more of those programs, for rather than just um, putting blinders up or trying to get rid of all these unfortunate people who are walking around Gallup. They're alcoholics, and in Navajo they call them clownies. There's
Mhm.
basically it's just like a street person that's suffering from alcoholism. I would like to see more programs and more I guess maybe funding to help these people.
Mhm.
Because they are part of the community, whether the community officials like it or not. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not like they're not going to go away. This is Gallup's a border town, man. There's reservations right there. Not just
Mhm.
our reservation, Navajo, but there's Zuni. There's the Pueblos down the road.
Mhm.
So I think there are always going to be people who are seeking that drink. Um, and I think more programs just dealing with the alcoholism issue. Maybe on a grassroots level like Care 66, where they're actually out there in the trenches helping these people to straighten out their lives, and maybe get their lives back in order and to quit drinking and kind of care about their family and loved ones. So more of those kind of programs like Care 66 I would like to see in Gallup.
Mhm. It's unfortunate what's happened to NCI.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in there too, man, as a resident.
Mhm.
It was just one night, but I was in there. Yeah, it wasn't very pleasant. And yeah, it is unfortunate that we had to have those kind of facilities.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's how it is.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to mention or?
Just that whoever listens to this, that you are an awesome person. Um, I really believe in the power of human beings, man. My message goes out to not just Native Americans, but to all humans. I love working with people, and I love seeing people succeed. And I want more for the community of Gallup and the surrounding, Native community also to get out there and just make it happen, man. Make your dreams come true. It's gonna be tough, but it's worth it in the end.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being here, Ernie.
Thank you.